Shady Tales Tibia.
Like, subscribe, share.
Shady Tales Tibia, Episode 3, Retro's Red Revelation. There are victories I remember fondly. There are defeats I carry with regret. And then there are moments I remember with something closer to fear, not because of what happened within them, but because of what they revealed. This is the story of one such moment, the story of Lord Retro, and of the day I began to mistake conviction for clarity. When I returned from the realm of dreams, many believed my journey had ended. They were wrong. The realm had not released me. A part of me remained there still, caught between memory and nightmare, between longing and truth. I carried something back with me that I could not name and could not set down. A weight that followed me into firelight, into crowded halls, into sleep, especially into sleep. In quiet moments when the fire burned low and the guild hall emptied, I would hear things, distant whispers, fragments of conversations that had ended years ago, laughter rising from rooms where no one stood, the faint clatter of armor from hunts that existed now only in memory, sounds without bodies to make them, echoes without origin, drifting through the halls like souls who had lost their way to the underworld and no longer minded. At first I told myself these were gifts, remnants of something precious, clinging to me. Now I know what they truly were. The dead do not always haunt us. Sometimes it is the past itself that refuses to lie down. I had been watching the rose for some time by then, quietly, carefully, in the way the realm had taught me, listening not merely to what was spoken, but to what moved beneath the words. Something had shifted in the guild's foundations. I could feel it the way old bones feel weather. Not a sudden fracture, but something slower and more patient. The warmth of fellowship remaining in the walls, while the fire that had created it burned lower with each passing season. New voices carried further than old ones, gatherings I was not summoned to, not out of malice, out of efficiency. A name surfacing more often than others, spoken with certainty, with momentum, Kalis. Around him gathered brothers of similar temper, sharp-eyed, forward-looking, measuring honor by what it could produce. I did not accuse them. I observed them. The realm had sharpened me for exactly this. The ability to hear the note beneath the note, to feel the tremor beneath the ground before the crack appears in the stone above. And so I traced the threads as I had always traced them. The secret waters of Port Hope, the frozen hush of Folder, the shadows of Liberty Bay. Each discovery pressed heavier against my chest than the last. I told myself I was searching for answers. I understand now that I was searching for permission. It was during this season of quiet unraveling that Lord Theoden summoned me. My mentor, my guide, a man whose wisdom I had trusted longer than my own judgment. He sat as he always sat, without urgency, without performance. He spoke few words, as was his way. Yet I have never forgotten them.
You seek answers?
I nodded.
Then descend. But be careful what you bring back.
I believed then that he was speaking of a monster. The task, as given, was simple. Find Lord Retro, end his influence, complete my Novicum trial, and return with proof that I was ready for whatever came next. A clean mission, a clear road. I have since learned to distrust clear roads. The most dangerous journeys always begin with the steadiest ground beneath your boots. The roses who might have walked beside us were scattered that season, each called away by burdens invisible to the others, each walking their own road through their own private dark, so only a handful remained. Theoden, my mentor, the last fixed point in a world that had begun to feel unstable. Poe, a mercenary who had once nearly doomed us and had spent every day since trying to settle a debt that could not be named. And Kelterus, silent Kelterus. 4 souls descending beneath Thais, 4 souls seeking a monster. Only one of us would find what he was truly looking for. There is a peculiar arrogance among the living. We imagine the world begins where our maps end, yet beneath every kingdom lie older kingdoms, dreaming fitfully in the dark. Beneath every story lies another story, breathing slow and patient, waiting for someone desperate enough to dig. And beneath every truth that comforts us waits something ancient, something that has survived being forgotten. Retro understood this. He had understood it long before any of us descended to find him. The deeper we traveled, the more the world began to wrong itself. The roots beneath Thais spread through ancient stone like the veins of something vast and sleeping. Great tangled masses pressing through forgotten halls and abandoned chambers, growing through the ruins of things that had no name in any living tongue. There were places where the walls wept without water, places where torchlight bent away from the dark rather than into it, as though afraid of what it might reveal. We passed through what I can only describe as a hall of echoes, a long corridor where every footstep returned from the wrong direction, where the sound of your own breathing reached you half a beat too late, as though something nearby was learning to imitate it. No one spoke there. Even Theoden moved through it with a careful deliberateness that I had never seen in him above ground. Beyond that lay something worse, a cathedral of roots. The ceiling was gone, or rather, buried so far above us that darkness had replaced it entirely. In its place hung massive root formations, twisting down through the stone, like the ribs of some immense creature entombed within the earth, its body long since dissolved, its bones slowly reclaiming the space where it had died. At times I thought I heard breathing, not from my companions, from the roots themselves. I heard my name spoken, not called, not shouted, spoken, softly, close, the way something speaks when it has been watching long enough to learn the shape of you. Theoden moved in silence. Poe's grip on his weapon had long since passed the point of caution and entered something closer to prayer. Kelterus alone appeared undisturbed, moving through those depths with the ease of a man who had either walked here before or had made his peace with what lay below. Hours passed, or perhaps days. Time felt wounded down there. Broken, the way a cursed clock runs backwards, each step carrying us deeper into something that felt less like a place, and more like memory given stone and shadow. The further we descended, the less certainty remained. Not merely certainty about where we were, but about when. I began recognizing places I had never visited, corridors I had walked only in dreams. The realm of dreams had felt this way. That recognition did not comfort me. Eventually, we found the chamber, and I have never been able to fully dismiss this. The chamber found us. It was vast in the way that ancient crypts are vast, not merely large but heavy, the air thick with the accumulated silence of centuries. Every sound we made was swallowed before it could return to us, as though the room had been fed on echoes for so long that it consumed them now out of habit. At its center stood a throne assembled from the wreckage of forgotten ages. Broken banners from guilds whose names no living Tibian could recite. Rusting weapons of make that predated our oldest histories. Fragments of letters penned by hands, long returned to earth. Treasures once carried by people who no longer existed to remember why they had valued them. The relics of a world that had refused to end properly. Upon that throne sat Lord Retro, waiting, as though he had always been waiting, as though waiting was the only thing left that he truly knew how to do. I expected a beast. Every story I had ever heard described him as a monster, an ancient evil, a relic of another age given appetite and malice. Instead, I found grief wearing a crown. His face moved, not the natural shift of expression across living features, but changing wholly, cycling through faces the way a dying fire cycles through colors. There was something familiar about it. I had felt it before, in the quiet of my own house, in the Hall of the Rose when the laughter reached me. I understood then what Retro truly was. Not a monster, not a tyrant. He was longing, given form, the embodiment of every soul who had ever stared into the past and whispered, too quietly for anyone else to hear. It was better back then. When he spoke, the cavern answered with him, as though the walls had been holding his voice for years and were finally releasing it. Thousands of voices speaking through a single mouth. The chill that moved through me was not fear. It was recognition. The battle began. Theoden unleashed magic that split the air like scripture spoken in a dead tongue. Poe fought with desperate, furious conviction, driving himself forward against something he could feel was cursed, even if he could not name what the curse had been extracted from. Kelterus moved through shadow and silence, as though born to both, blade finding openings in Retro's form that should not have existed. And still Retro smiled, not with cruelty, not with mockery, with patience. Then reality began to fracture. Each blow we landed cracked more than flesh. The cavern split between strikes, not into darkness, but into elsewhere. And I stood in places I had no business standing. Old Thais, as it had been. The streets cobbled differently, the light holding a quality I had not seen in years. Ancient Venor, heavy with salt air and the smell of old rope and older stone. Guild halls alive with torchlight, and the voices of friends I had not heard in years. Everything I had lost returned to me, if only for a moment, if only long enough to feel the full weight of what had been taken. That was Retro's true weapon, not sorcery, not the armies of the dead, temptation. He offered what every grieving soul secretly desires, another chance. One more conversation with the gone. One more hunt through familiar ground with familiar faces. One more day in a world where the people who mattered were still present. I wish I could tell you, I saw through it immediately, and I fought on unshaken. But that would be a lie, and lies are the one coin the dead will not accept. For a moment, one long, ruinous moment, I wanted it. All of it. The old days. The old guild at its fullest. And Retro saw that wanting in me. He found it the way something that lives in the dark finds warmth. He fed upon it. As the battle wore on, the visions deepened until I could no longer say with certainty whether we were fighting Lord Retro or wandering, lost, through the cathedral of his grief. Then came the final moment. Retro fell to one knee. His form cracked along, and from those cracks spilled something that was not blood. He looked at me, The visions changed. His shifting face went still, and staring back at me, wearing my features with an ease that suggested long familiarity, was my own reflection. I had no answer. My blade struck. Retro shattered. The chamber fell silent. The visions dissolved like frost from cold stone at first light. The trial was complete. The monster was dead. At least, that is what I told myself. When we emerged beneath the open skies of Thais, Theoden offered his congratulations. He pressed the Chayyane Key into my hand. It felt colder than it should have, heavier. Poe smiled, the wide, uncomplicated smile of a man grateful to be breathing uncursed air. Kelterus remained quiet, watching me with an expression I chose not to examine too closely. The world appeared unchanged. Nothing felt the same. As I walked the halls of the Red Rose again, I found I could no longer see them as I once had. The conversations, the ambitions, the fading of traditions that had once seemed immovable as fortress walls, the Blackheart's quiet philosophy spreading through the guild like damp through old stone. I had seen this before. I had seen the guild as it once was. I had seen what it was becoming. For the first time, I could not find the boundary where observation ended and judgment began. Had the guild changed, or had I? That night I returned to my house. The Chayyane Key rested where it always had. The relics remained untouched. The stories remained preserved. Yet for the first time, I found myself looking at all of it differently. Not with grief, not with longing, with clarity. And somewhere deep within the silence of that house, something answered. Not retro, not exactly. Something older. It did not speak in words. It did not need to. The trial of retro was over. But another trial had already begun. One that would move through the Red Rose like a slow fracture through old stone.
Shady Tales Tibia.
Like, subscribe, share.
Shady Tales Tibia, Episode 3, Retro's Red Revelation.